Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by our actually latest member of the On Texas Football family. Need no introduction, been in this industry and in the market for the Longhorns, covering the Longhorns for a decade and a half. It's our one and only Jeff Howe, also joined by the coach, our coach, former high school football coach at Belton Rotan, also Capel, Brownwood, Belton, also played college football at Abilene Christian, coach there as well, was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches. It is our own coach, Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Enjoying a little nice weather, man.
Yeah, I know. It's starting to warm up a little bit. It was cold and rainy for a while, but now I'm starting to get some better weather. Hope that's the case for everybody out there joining us today, wherever you're joining us from. We appreciate all you guys taking the time. You can always drive this show wherever direction you want to. You can hit us up with questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. We'll get into a couple of topics today, in addition to whatever you guys want to talk about. Arch Manning did an interview, a sit-down interview with Marty Smith of ESPN. We'll get to some of the highlights from that. Also, he's starting to rake in some of the NIL deals already. No surprise there. We'll get into some Arch Manning conversation. Also, I want to get into the latest mock draft from Bucky Brooks. He knows his stuff over at NFL Network, so he came out with this mock draft. So we'll talk about where the Longhorns are landing on all the latest kind of mock drafts that are out there. There's also now a article that came out from On3 that is listing the schools with the most transfer portal departures. So we'll talk about that because some of those the Longhorns will be facing actually next year with a lot of losses via the transfer portal. And we'll get into, I want to get coaches' thoughts about the latest transfer portal acquisition for the Longhorns, Hero Canoe, because I haven't gotten coaches' thoughts about that. The Longhorns getting a D tackle via the transfer portal in the midnight hour. Before the transfer portal got done. So that's a good thing. We'll also get into a couple of other items on the show. Unfortunately, there is a scandal with a lifetime Longhorn that's out there. Got some allegations. So, yes, we won't ignore that. We'll get into that a little bit, too, coming up a little bit later on the show. But first, I want to start, Coach, I want to get your thoughts initially. Longhorns got another D tackle in the transfer portal. Really good news for them. Hero Canoe got 2 years of eligibility remaining. Coming from Ohio State, actually got a chance to play a little bit at Ohio State, but was expected to definitely break into the rotation from this year. But he ends up transferring to the Longhorns, who will face his old team when the Longhorns face them at the start of the 2025 season. What are your thoughts? Longhorns get another D tackle in the transfer portal, D lineman, in addition to Cole Brevard, in addition to Travis Shaw, the D lineman they got out of North Carolina. So Longhorns definitely addressing the big humans at the D tackle position. What are your thoughts about them getting another?
Well, he's obviously got great size. What is he, 6'5", a little over 300 pounds, I think. Yep. And just what little I've watched him, it looks like, he's athletic. He's got a good first step, which is everything if you're a defensive lineman. But, this one just was, I don't know about you guys. This came out of left field. I didn't know if y'all had heard anything about it prior to, but I had not. So this was one of those pleasant surprises you wake up to when you look at how valuable that position is overall in college football, any football level, but especially, when we were talking last week about, or actually it could have been on Monday's show. We were talking about, the defensive tackle and kind of a pattern that we have, the last two, and the two before that, and we got two ready to go. And, I just think it's a great addition. I think I don't know a lot about his history, but he certainly comes in with high expectations to be a huge impact player for us.
Yep, no doubt about that. A lot of Longhorns are really excited. A lot of upside too. And hey, Coach, what are your thoughts about when you hear that he's been playing football, organized American football for roughly 5 years now, something like that?
That fires me up.
It should, yeah.
That fires me up.
Because he doesn't know that you can't know the game in 4 or 5 years. You can't. I've been studying this game. You can't know the game. So I don't know when the light's going to go off, and maybe it's starting already to go off for him, but he's able to play at this elite level. And like I said, he is just starting to really learn the game of football and the subtle nuances of playing D-line, I think it's a fascinating development potentially.
I think it's really goes hand in hand with the history over the last few years of our staff and their development of players. The guy needs to be, fast-tracked in a lot of areas. And I don't know what he might lack physically, but there's so many things that our strength staff does now to simulate football actions and what they're working, hip sleds and, all that stuff. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what our strength staff and our coaching staff could bring out of him that maybe we haven't seen yet, because obviously he doesn't know the tricks of the trade. He's just trying to figure everything out still. He probably thinks he feels pretty good, but he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you just haven't been exposed to it enough. So I think that's fascinating. Also, Coach, I'll give you props. I remember we were talking maybe a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows, and someone asked the panel, where should the Longhorns look to add support staff, extra coaches? And you specifically said, hey, they should bring in somebody to help out Jeff Banks. I mean, you specifically said that. Well, the word on the street is that's exactly what they did. They added a long-time tight ends coach, but he was coaching a position called the Cowboy back with Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State, Jason McIndoe. And he's going to, I guess some of the reports are, we don't know for sure, it hasn't been confirmed, but the belief is he's going to come in and help coach tight ends, kind of assistant tight ends coach, and then maybe allow Jeff Banks to focus more on special teams or whatever. But I remember you brought that up specifically. So once again, that's why you're the coach. So. Just throwing that out there. All right, let's talk about the Arch interview. Jeff, you got a chance to watch it. Coach, I hope you got a chance to catch a little bit of it. I know they had a lot of highlights out there about it, but it was about 17 minutes, maybe something like that. He sat down with Marty Smith, and he got a lot of questions in actually, because Arch didn't he didn't go on, right? He didn't actually, in my opinion, expand on really anything. Everything was kind of rapid fire and quick, but I thought it was really revealing. What was your favorite part? So my favorite part, I'll just throw it out there initially, was when they asked him, what are your goals? Like, what are your individual goals? What does your goal chart look like for next season as a starter, first-time starter at Texas? And he said, win a national title. And then Marty had to kind of rephrase and say, no, I'm with individual goals for you. And he was like, oh, yeah. I had to think about it. Oh, I ain't really worried about that. They said, I just want to play well. So he did, but he kind of get back to the team. He said that, I believe it was, team success will lead to, accomplishing individual goals. Yeah. That's kind of what he went back to. What was your favorite part, Jeff?
Yeah, I like the fact that, whether it was, Marty asked him a couple times. He asked him, why did you pick Texas in the first place? And
that was good.
In the day and age of the portal, why did you stay at Texas? And I think it just reveals, if Arch was acting a fool around town, around campus, man, you'd hear about it. He's way too high profile for us to not hear anything. And, from everything I've heard, guys, it came through in that interview. He's about as regular of a college kid as one can be with his profile. And he just likes being one of the guys, just being a normal guy, and has focused on just being a good teammate and being the best guy he can in the locker room. And that's refreshing, man, because guys that don't have a reason to have a big head. Now, Arch has every reason in the world to big time people and carry himself on he could carry himself on like a LeBron James type level, because other than LeBron James and maybe Bryce Harper, I can't think of anybody this young that's had this much put on them.
Yeah.
And again, Arch is just kind of one of the guys, and he's fallen in line and been a good teammate and waited his turn. And I don't know, Coach, I keep going back to something Sark said last spring where he said, it's really weird for everybody that's been around college football forever. Everybody's praising Arch for sticking around 2 years when it used to be, you're going to stick it out and wait your turn and, take your turn on the depth chart. But that's what he's done. And, the family they've had a plan and they've followed their plan, and they haven't been shocked by anything or surprised by anything. They knew there was a chance Quinn could stay 2 years, and, Arch knew he was going to get his time. And I do love the fact, though, that he admitted that it was what frustrated him was it wasn't not getting to play. It was getting that taste of it and then having to go back to the bench. So You've got a hungry Arch Manning, a motivated Arch Manning, and a guy that has spent his first 2 years learning from Quinn and, getting everybody in the locker room to kind of get to know who he is. So I think he's as prepared as he could possibly be to walk into what he's about to walk into. And I like the fact that, the first kind of revealing interview with him, if you want to call it that, it was done with Marty Smith, a guy that the Manning family trusts in a controlled environment. So we got to really see kind of inside Arch for the first time. We get to see him open up, but it was an environment that made him as comfortable as possible. So there's so many things to like about it, but Coach, people don't believe you that it's almost Tim Tebow. Like, people are like, no, he can't just be a regular guy. Like, no, he really is just a regular, college kid, just going through day to day with normal college kid stuff.
Yeah. No, I love the Tim Tebow comparison, because with Tebow, they kept looking for the dirt, right?
Yeah.
It was like TMZ exists. Like, they're going to find the dirt on Tebow. Say, he can't be that clean. So there's no way he's that clean, and his moral compass is that, uncorrupted. And turns out, actually, Tim Tebow, it was a real deal. Like, TMZ never found the dirt. They're still looking for dirt on Tim Tebow. Can't find it. Ain't no dirt on Tim. He was in the same locker room with Aaron Hernandez. Can't find the dirt. All right. That's how pristine and squeaky clean Tim Tebow was. And I agree with you. It does feel like, they're following Arch around. They're looking for, him making some, teenage boneheaded decisions, something like that. I guess the worst thing is he can't keep up with his ID. Like, that's the dirt they got on him. For some reason, I don't know if he lost 1, 2. I don't know if that became a folklore legend, but he was losing IDs or something like that. That's about it. He does seem to be as humble as he presents himself to be. He even said on the interview, Coach, he said, I don't think I deserve people coming up to me and want to take pictures. I don't deserve all that. He said, I'm paraphrasing. He said, I haven't earned it yet.
Yeah,
said,
that was my favorite. That was my favorite part. That just being cognizant of the fact and being able to verbalize it, that I haven't done anything yet. I don't deserve this. It's undeserving. But still, so somebody that feels like it's undeserving would probably shy away or shun photographs and autographs and all that stuff, and apparently he doesn't. But he said, hopefully, one day I will have earned it,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But the whole dynamics of the family was really interesting. What's one thing that you learned from Peyton? What about Eli? What about him? Then Archie. What about Archie? Just the relationships that they have and the different sources, incredible sources that no athlete that I know of has ever had the resources that he has to get him mentally prepared and patient and all that stuff, where he doesn't seem like, to me, he's going to be the type of guy that's going to be rattled. He's not going to be in a situation that's bigger than he can handle. But just the, and then going in and talking about Milwee and saying, he's a tough coach. He doesn't throw out a lot of praise. Well, when you're coach, and it shows the maturity and just the atmosphere that our staff has created, because, Milwee's a young guy. I mean, he's not like an old veteran. He's young. And so when you have a whole high profile guy, the number one recruit in the country, that comes in and you're coaching him, you want him to like you, sure. You want him to report back to the family that he treats you pretty good. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the family didn't sit down with Milwee and have a conversation and go, look, we don't need a nice guy. We need somebody that's going to, in other words, give him the green light to treat him just like you would your own, and stay after him, because obviously the goal is for Arch to reach his genetic potential while he's here. And so anyway, I just thought the whole thing was really cool, and it just further emphasizes or cements, I guess, in my mind, that he's a real deal, and he is who we think he is. And we keep hearing these stories, and everybody keeps trying to knock him down and get him moved out or whatever. I did notice he apparently got an NIL deal with Red Bull.
Yeah, he did.
So he may he may come out a little more hyped up now for games. I don't know.
He did a little pitch on the interview too. He said he asked about the Red Bull and he did a little pitch like, sometimes, when I need it for practice, he did a little pitch for it. So natural pitch, man, he gets it. He gets it.
He gets it. Yeah. But I do like the fact that, unlike me, he'll say what he has to say and keep his mouth shut. He doesn't ramble.
He does not. He is not long-winded. No.
Yeah.
He's not elaborate.
He certainly seems to have his head on straight.
Yeah, yep. I like the fact that, Coach, you mentioned this was all for an NIL deal with Red Bull. He's got this and Panini. That's pretty much it. And I know actually CJ had mentioned, I didn't know this. Apparently the Panini NIL deal is a 7-figure deal, so that's not shocking. But again, Marty Smith even asked him during the interview about Lambos. Arch like, I don't know the Lambo. He's like, I'm not that kind of guy. my buddy Michael Taff has a Lambo, but I don't have a Lambo. Yeah, so there was that. And then I do like the fact too, Coach, kind of going back to something you mentioned with just who he is and being the real deal, and his family, how they brought him up the right way. I like the fact that he backed up a story Peyton's told about Arch texted him last spring something about a 2-minute drill, and Peyton sent him a 10-minute voice memo, and Peyton's like, he hadn't texted me about anything since. So I guess that 10-minute voicemail was a little overwhelming, but I have a lot of respect for the Manning family and how they played this, because I've talked to AJ Milwee and he said the same thing Sarkis said. Archie, Peyton, Eli, none of them were involved in the recruitment. It was all Arch and Arch's parents, and his parents really said, hey, this is your decision to make. It's not our future. It's your future. You're going to decide where you go. And AJ Milwee said it was about as straightforward of a recruitment as you could deal with. So I have a lot of respect for the Manning family and how they've gone about their business with Arch, because they have every reason in the book to not take that approach, and they haven't. They've done it the right way.
Yep. No, it's one thing that Coach brought up, and and Coach is right. I mean, no quarterback in the history of college football has ever had better resources to rely on to get better. I mean, with the obviously lineage, the first family of football, and quarterbacking being their family business, but Sark being considered a quarterback guru himself, and the resources that Texas in the NIL era and transfer portal era will put around a young Manning. I mean, he will be put in a great position to succeed. So I like what you said about that, Coach. And he relies on those. He did say that Eli gets a little bit more to the point. So he might be hitting Eli up more, but like, hey, Eli, man, how do I do this? Eli's like, I got you. Boom, 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 boom. And Peyton wants to be on this kind of long, these essay long answers. But I get that, though. He did say that's what he likes about Peyton is the preparation. And Peyton's always prepared for every situation.
The story, Rod, that I think it's cool that Peyton Manning's this way, even in retirement, and as he gets later in life. Arch invited him. Peyton was in town last summer. I guess Arch invited him to throw. He's like, Peyton, want to know what time do I need to get there? Where am I parking? How long is this going to last? Who else going to be there? What are we doing when we're done? Like, everything's got to be organized and it's got to have a plan. So it's good to know that old habits die hard.
Hey man, that's the personality type. It's a good quarterback. That's just a personality type there. But one of the things, because I know we're gonna move on and talk about some other things here, and then take some questions as well. But when and I can't quite remember exactly when Arch committed, but it was at a time, obviously, when there are still a lot of people on the fence. I think a lot of Longhorn fans, and rightfully so, by the way, not criticizing anybody, still on the fence about whether Sark could be the coach to take Texas to the promised land, right? And I remember saying at the time, if the first family of football, who I'm sure has done their research, if everybody's on board with this, because obviously you talked about Arch and his family and they made the decision, but I got a feeling at least the unks probably did their own research on this thing and Grandpa. And they didn't feel like Texas was at least the family himself. I'm talking about Arch and his family. Didn't feel like Texas was headed in the right direction. And that Sark wasn't a coach capable of winning a national title, which is what I'm sure they want to put him in a position to, and helping him, like Coach says, develop to being 1-1, which is number 1 overall, first pick overall, which is the kind of potential he has. They wouldn't have made a decision to send the latest generation of the Manning to Texas. All right, they'd have made a different decision. So I always said when they trusted him, I was like, man, if the Manning family trusts him, that is a hell of a celebrity endorsement. That's the greatest celebrity endorsement probably that any coach could get in the history of college football. And Sark got him. So I was like, That's a reason for me to trust him. Because the Manning family trusted him with the latest generation of the Manning. Turns out they was right. They might have been right before everybody else was about Sark, proving it in the last couple of years.
Just with Texas, Roddy, Eli almost ended up in your recruiting class.
That is true.
It was Texas and Ole Miss, and he ended up picking Ole Miss.
Yeah, I say Mac knew how to get a celebrity quarterback. Now Mac, he got a couple in his time. Now Mac knew all about getting them celebrity QBs. So he knew how to market them, and he always knew that he knew the quarterbacks going to bring celebrity receivers, which he did. It always worked out for Mac that way. I mean, he got Sims, he got DJ, Roy, and Sloan. Go ask those guys. They'll tell you, I don't come if you don't get Sims. Like we all scattered somewhere else. And then obviously we knew how everything steamrolled from there. All right, so that's Archie's interview. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on. You can go catch it on many platforms, but I believe on like ESPN's like YouTube channel, they got it up there too. You can go check it out. All right, let's get to. Oh, you know what? Before we move on, talking Arch now, we might as well get this in. So Cam Newton was on First Take. For those, I don't watch a lot of First Take. I don't watch. Every now and then it'll be on and I'll see it, but I don't just religiously watch First Take. For those who are wondering, but on First Take, apparently, one of the hot takes from Cam Newton, who was on, was they were talking about the Cowboys, which I think half the time they're talking about the Cowboys anyway, and they were talking about the Cowboys hiring, Brian Schottenheimer, which I'm sure Jeff's a Cowboys fan. He can tell us how he feels about it. Not a lot of excitement about Brian Schottenheimer. And Cam Newton's take, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, was that, the Brian Schottenheimer hire is so bad, he believes, or at least there's word on the street, that the Cowboys are tanking, that Schottenheimer is going to be a one and done, and they're tanking for Arch in a couple of years. And whenever Arch is available, the Cowboys will be bad enough because of Schottenheimer and some of these decisions that they will draft Arch to take over as quarterback for the Cowboys. It is a wild theory. By the way, I've brought this up on these live streams before. That is not a new theory. Cowboys fans have been talking about this since Brian Schottenheimer was hired. They've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I brought it up on live stream. I didn't come up with it. I heard it from a crazy Cowboys fan who heard it from some other crazy Cowboys fan. So it is getting around, and it just got up to Cam Newton. So he didn't come up with it, but he's definitely the one to voice it on a big stage like that. It is probably nonsense because you can't be that bad if you got Dak, Micah Parsons, and CeeDee Lamb. So you probably got to trade away some of your pieces to be that bad to get the number one overall pick. But it is great offseason discussion. I guess you get to that. There you go. Arch is already a part of the pop culture, Coach. He's already part of it. It's done.
Yeah, an interesting thing about that is that if the Mannings didn't want Arch to come in and play early as a college player, they're probably not going to want him to come in and play early as an NFL player. I mean, I think it did irreparable damage. I think it does sometimes. I think it did to Colt being stuck up there with the Browns, and he had, there were guys that he said that were receivers that couldn't have started, at Texas. And I don't know that he ever really recovered from that. And it can really throw your career for a loop. And so why would the Mannings be any less patient with the NFL development in the NFL than they were in college? Just a thought. I think they need to hang on to a quarterback that can play well enough for them to wait until Arch is ready. My thought.
Like Mahomes, sit out. Just sit out early.
Yeah.
I would. The NFL is not really a developmental league for quarterbacks now. The agents will tell you that they don't. That's why they give up on quarterbacks really early. They're not a developmental league. The Mannings, of course, know that. I think that's part of the reason, like you just mentioned, Coach, that they wanted him at Texas and they did not mind him sitting and developing pro-style system, which Sark has, and learning that pro-style system and actually as it becoming more comfortable in that system before you just kind of throw them into the fire. So I'm with you there, Coach. It's a good point. I think, and there are now a lot of varying different opinions about whether you should sit a young quarterback or you should throw him in there right away. I think every situation is different, but I could see them wanting him to sit Patrick Mahomes style and develop early on.
And why can't Sark be in that conversation instead of Nick?
Ooh. Well, he could be.
We're throwing out conspiracy theories.
If you win the national title too, Coach, if you're coming off a national title, that kind of man, you could have that kind of moment. And Sark is originally like a lot of NFL roots. I mean, remember Al Davis loved him some Sark way back in the day when he was a young prodigy and wanted to hire him way back then. And I think Sark does have NFL aspirations, not now, but I think after he wins a national title at Texas, it will pique his interest. My opinion.
Let's not forget too with the Mannings, Archie once held up the NFL draft to make sure Eli just did, because San Diego was a dumpster fire at the time. They forced that trade to the Giants. And hey, if you got the leverage, I'm all about if you got leverage, play it. Can I give you a real quick Cowboys theory though, Rod? Because I go the other way. And I heard this and it makes so much sense. I'll credit Jake Kemp up in Dallas with this. Jerry Jones sees the Cowboys as a family business. Clearly, he doesn't see it as a football team. He sees it as a family business.
Agreed.
What patriarch of the family is going to want to give the family business to the kids at a time when its value is low, when a football team isn't winning? I think he wants it to be just good enough to where they're relevant, to where when he hands it off, when he no longer roams this mortal earth and he hands it off to Steven and Jerry Jr. and Charlotte, he wants this thing to be about as level as it can be. Whether it's at its peak or not doesn't matter. It just doesn't need to be at his basement. So I don't think it's in Jerry's nature right now to tank and try to rebuild. But I don't think necessarily he wants to make the gamble and try to go all out and go win a Super Bowl either. I think he just wants it to be just good enough so that way he hands it off in a good spot.
Well, because Jerry understands. Because Jerry knows they're a TV show. They're a TV show first and a football team second.
Yeah.
And they're the number one TV star on the number one TV show in America. And he understands that. And as long as you're not terrible, like in tanking, mean the worst team in the league, you can always generate storylines, generate headlines. And the Cowboys do it better than any other organization in sports. And this is another example of it right here. We're talking about the Cowboys right now. Got no damn reason to be talking about the Cowboys. We're talking about Arch Manning and the Cowboys. He knows Jerry Jones is the greatest sports promoter guys of our time. He's in the same conversation with like Don King and Dana White. He's amazing. You heard him talking about glory holes this past weekend. He was talking about it ain't all sunshines and glory holes. It's like, what? And it just boom goes viral because it's like, I don't know if Jerry is. Does Jerry know what he's okay? You know what? Don't even worry about it. But that's Jerry knows what he's doing. Jerry ain't crazy. That's why they're the most valuable sports franchise in the world. They don't do that because you're an imbecile. Y'all go watch Jerry. Jerry brings that term up all the time. He's talking about oil like rigs and like hitting like oil, like what I mean. That's what I think he's talking about.
Hey, if you're gonna have zingers, I'm a big elevator pitch. If you can't explain to me on my way from the third floor to the fourth floor, then you probably don't need to use it. Just change it up and do something else.
Jerry does it all the time, and I think he does it on purpose because he knows he's gonna go viral with it. But to your point, Arch Manning as a future Dallas Cowboy, I don't know about that. I don't know how the family would feel about that. But all right, I'm
ready for a full season of Arch in burnt orange as the starter before that. How about that?
No kidding. But the place that the rest of the world wants Arch to go, as we end this rabbit trail we're on right now, is the New Orleans Saints. Can you imagine if that happened?
They actually could do it because they're gonna be bad for a little while. They still ain't hired their coach. Are they gonna hire Kellen Moore? Is that the word on the street? They're gonna hire Kellen Moore.
Yeah,
I like Kellen Moore, by the way, but they're in salary cap in hell. They got some issues salary cap wise, and now we know Sean Payton was doing God's work down there. Goodness, Saints in some trouble. So that may work because they may actually be in a position to do it by that time.
Rename the Superdome the Manning Dome if they have to.
Yeah, there you go.
I saw somebody in the chat here saying, make sure I can find it, because they're trying to put together basically the power couple name between Sark and Arch. Chris was calling it Sarch. Sarch combo.
Yeah. Sarch, there it is.
The power couple name going. Hey, maybe they don't catch on, Christopher. You might be right. Maybe they don't catch on. We hope so. All right, let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek State Winery before we move on here. Really appreciate them for being a part of the On Texas football family and for sponsoring the winning drive. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so give it a try. They also have it at your local Central Market because I saw a beautiful display there of Flat Creek wine. Of course, Flat Creek not only produces some of the best premium wines on the market today, but also is a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. Go check it out for yourself at flatcreekestate.com. I really appreciate them for sponsoring the winning drive and being part of the On Texas football family. We actually had a member of the On Texas football family get engaged recently at Flat Creek Estate Winery. So they can tell you that it is not only just a gorgeous venue, but it's a venue worthy, all right, of all types of fantastic occasions. So get out there, flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get to some questions here, and then we'll get back to the conference because I got a couple other topics I want to get you guys thoughts on. Bucky Brooks had a mock draft. We'll talk about where the Longhorns, a couple of Longhorns stand in that mock draft. I want to get to a couple of other related topics. I know the latest finalized recruiting rankings or ratings have been out. So I do now there is no dispute, correct, about Texas's status as the number one ranked class. I'm going to get Jeff's thoughts about that a little bit too. All right, let's hit Jose first. He's got a question for Coach. Jose says, Coach, who was the best player your high school teams ever played? Also, favorite high school stadium you've coached or played in? House Park is my favorite all the time. House Park is a fantastic stadium right in the middle of the city at night. Man, the skyline in the background. I've actually called some games with Craig Way in that stadium in House Park on the roof. Now I don't know if that they redid it, but back then we had to get like on the roof and call some games on House Park because that's how crowded it was. But it was awesome. Like it was, like I said, it's one of the best environments and the best backdrops for a stadium, I think, in Texas. No doubt. Love it.
Yeah, that is a great. We had a great game there in 2002 against LBJ. And they were coming off a pretty good playoff run, and people didn't know how good we were going to be. And we came in there and took care of them pretty good. And I think Jordan had a kick return for a touchdown. He had a pass reception for a touchdown, and he had a run for a touchdown on a little reverse. So it was a really cool stadium to play at. I mean, it's just, I've driven by it my whole life, it seems like, but anyway. The best player I played against might be, did Jackson Smith, Nigba play there at Allen High School?
He was Rockwall.
Rockwall, yeah. I can't remember who the receiver was at Allen that went to Ohio State, I think it was, in about probably 2015. I can't even remember who his name was, but he was the best player that I ever coached against in high school. He made such an impact on me. I'll never forget him. Let's see, what was his name? I seriously, I cannot remember his name, but he was the best. But I coached some dang good ones too, man. So
damn right.
Still got a couple left in the NFL. That's kind of fun to watch.
Jalen Guyton.
Yep.
Is that him?
Yep, that's him.
He was an NFL guy. Coach, I'll tell you what, the state championship game when you were at Burnett that you guys played against Gainesville at Texas Stadium.
Uh-huh.
Gainesville had the two kids. It was Terrence Purvey, and I forget the other
kid's
name, but those kids were awesome.
Yeah, in fact, he went to Tech, and then I think still playing in the league, if I'm not mistaken. The DB from Gainesville, because he came out and said that in an interview before the game that Jordan Shipley would not have one catch against him.
Wow.
And would have no significance in the game.
Whoa.
and Jordan returned the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. Unfortunately, the first defensive series of that game, he got a concussion, knocked him out cold. And obviously, by today's standards, he wouldn't have been able to play again. And he shouldn't have played the rest of that game. He didn't even know where his locker was at halftime. He wasn't much of a significance in that game after that. But anyway, unfortunate, but fun. That was, I guess, one of the last seasons there at Texas Stadium, I believe.
No, you could be right about that, Coach. Yeah,
Darcel McBath, Coach. That's who it was.
Oh yeah, McBath. Yeah, that's right. He's the one that went to Tech, and I think he's still playing.
All right. Thanks for the question, Jose. Drew says, did you guys see Arch's interview with Marty? Great representation of the Texas program. Great interview. Yeah, it was a great interview. The best, I guess, the highlight of the interview, I don't even know if we talked about it, but he did say that the reason he came to Texas was because he kind of wanted to bring Texas back. So, back would be a national title. Then, hey, go ahead, Arch. Can we talk about the expectations for Arch, though? Are the expectations that he's going to win a national title? Is that so? If he doesn't win a national title, is he considered a disappointment?
Yeah, I was no joke. I was just talking to somebody about this before our show started, and I really hope. Rod, me and my buddies used to joke when Chris Sims got there, when your class got there in 99, we're like, man, Chris Sims would have had to win 3 national championships to, live up to expectations. And I really think that's what some people expect of Arch. Like, it better be national championship every year he's the starter. I just think today it's almost turned into winning a national championship now that we've got a taste of this 12-team playoff. It's almost like winning a Super Bowl. Like there are so many things. If you're playing 17 games, there's so many things that have to go right for you. You can have a really talented team and not win a national championship. You can win a conference championship. Heck, we're talking about just can Texas go win an SEC championship?
Texas last 2 years.
So there's so many things. I feel like if Texas is in that mix to be a semifinal type team every year, that's about as much as you can ask for. So if Arch can keep this going and just maybe elevate it, whether that's winning a conference championship, getting to a national championship game, I would hope that's good enough for people, but I know it's not going to be for some.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it because, Vince Young is one of the only quarterbacks, kind of hyped up quarterbacks coming in to actually meet expectations.
Yeah.
And you say what you want about Colt. Yes, Colt, achieved a lot, but there were no high expectations on Colt when Colt came in. It probably was after VY won the national title, and they were like, all right, here it is, young Colt. All right. So maybe then it was like, oh man, hold up. I didn't expect that. But I'm talking about from the time they came in on campus. They walked on campus. It was like, man, if you don't win a national title or compete for one, that's a disappointment. Yeah. Like that, I think we're at that, and that's essentially where I think we were with Sims, and I will admit I was part of that, and I would tell you that most people believe Sims was a disappointment. I will tell you my team, because it wasn't Sims, we were a team, we were a disappointment because we should have played for a national title, or at least should have won a Big 12 title. All right, so I'll grant you that. How many quarterbacks do it? I don't know if we've ever had a quarterback really overhyped, or I say not overhyped, but a really hyped up quarterback coming in meet the expectations because they are always ridiculously high. VY is one of the only ones to do it.
Kyler got close.
I'm talking about Texas, but you're right. I'm talking about Texas.
Oh, you're talking about Texas?
I'm talking about Texas, period.
Well, it's Garrett Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert came in with a ton of hype. And the number one recruit in the country.
Yep.
I think regardless of position, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. A lot of hype, Coach, and that didn't work out. So I'm not saying he's not going to do it. I hope he does, but think about how crazy the hype is that if we're not competing for a national title, Quinn got to the Final Four, and some of y'all out there want to call Quinn a bum. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, man, I don't know what's happening. This guy competed in the Final Four. You're like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I'm like, the expectations are really high to be the starting quarterback at Texas. And I just going to, I don't know, at least discuss these because I do think they're no doubt they're unfair. but they may be unrealistic as well. But are they unrealistic when you have the number one recruiting class now in the country? In the NIL transfer portal era, you've been stacking talent. I don't know if it is unrealistic now. Maybe it was at one point. I don't know if it is now. You just got to the Final Four back-to-back years. You weren't doing that when you got those other guys in. That Final Four in back-to-back years. You are right there, and you're on the precipice, and you're now stacking more talent than ever before. Maybe the expectations should be national title or bust. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I'm just saying for the program, period.
You've shown you could knock on the door. Now it's can you open it? Can you break it down? That's the expectation now, and I think that would be regardless whether Arch was a starter or it was somebody else. Like, you've gotten this close, you've shown you can get it to a point. Now it's time to elevate it another notch. Rod, it's no different than when Mac was building it while you were there. Like, yeah, in 2001 you won 11 games. Great. What's next? What are you gonna do to elevate it? Now it's to win. Now you got to win a conference championship. Now you got to beat Oklahoma and then win a conference championship and then you win a national championship. So yeah, it's normal for those expectations to change. I just don't think we need to expect Arch to come in and throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns and no interceptions and be perfect. Some people are going to expect him to be perfect, and he's not. And I think for those are the unrealistic expectations to me.
Which one's more likely, Coach? Win a national title, win the Heisman, or be the top quarterback taken? I'm not even going to say number one overall. I assume if you're the top quarterback, usually got a good chance to be number one overall. Which one's more likely for Arch? Because I think those are the three kind of boxes that Longhorns are checking to say if he met expectations or exceeded them, right? That's kind of where it's like, is he going to be the top quarterback in the country? Is he going to be the best player in the country? Is he going to help Texas win a national title? Those are kind of the three areas, right? BY probably should have won the Heisman. I always say if you won the Heisman, I don't know if you win the national title because he used that chip on his shoulder to help drive him to help you win a national title. So I don't know if you get both with BY, but he was in the conversation for both because he was at the Heisman ceremony. So and then BY was the first round quarterback, right? That I think is your checklist for Arch. And if he doesn't meet that, and even Quinn, right? Quinn didn't meet it for Longhorn fans because he's not going to be a first round pick. He wasn't a Heisman finalist, didn't get you the national title. Longhorns are like, that guy was a disappointment. I know that's crazy and it's harsh, but I think that is the criteria for greatness around here.
What would the expectation have been had we not signed Arch, though, with Quinn? That was the most difficult thing for Quinn, was having Arch behind him. And I mean, it's got to let the wind out of your sails when, you've taken the team to a 35-point lead and your backup gets to come in and play the fourth quarter, and the loudest applause of the whole game happens when you're out and he comes in. Yeah. So without Arch there, I think Quinn would have been much more appreciated. And in fact, and it could come around, if Arch is not what everybody says it was, then people will look back at Quinn and go, you know what? That Quinn we didn't give him enough credit, because it's really hard to do. But to go back and answer your question, which of the three, if number two and number three happen, then number one's going to happen. If he wins the Heisman and if he's a first quarterback pick, we're going to win the national championship. Okay. So I would say the national championship first. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say first.
Okay. Yeah. No, it is. It's a good conversation to have. Like I said, it's a fun conversation to have for Longhorn fans because I think the ceiling, he does have that kind of ceiling as a player.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk about, him reaching that ceiling because if he does, Coach is right. Texas is going to win a national title.
I'll say this in my time at 24/7 Sports, when our rankings team did the comp for Arch, it was Joe Burrow. So you look at the comparison. Joe Burrow checked all three of those boxes, Rod.
Yeah, he did.
Won a Heisman, won a national title, and was the first quarterback taken.
Damn. Wow. That would be sweet if that is the case. That would be sweet. Yeah. I think, like I said, I think he's got that kind of potential too. All right, let's get to a couple of more questions here. Good stuff there, guys. This one is from Paul. It says Arch Manning, Santana Wilson, and now Dia Bell, the parents that did it at the highest level trust Sark. That is a good point, Paul. That is a valid point. You're talking about these households, Coach, they've been all about football. So these kids grow up, they eat, breathe, and live football. You said you gotta. Do you love football? Or do you live football? All right. These are guys that both they love it and they live it. And for these, some of these people are front office execs at the highest levels, and obviously first family of football. Then obviously professional athletes themselves, and they have done the research and the due diligence, I'm sure, on the program and on Sark's personality and on Sark's blueprint to win and development and just overall academics at Texas too, because that stuff matters. All that matters. And NIL and then the social scene of Austin. And they figure the University of Texas provides the total package. And these days, it's hard to disagree. Like, I don't know how you negatively recruit against Texas now. I don't know the pitch. It used to be an easy pitch. They don't compete for championships and they don't develop talent. All right. You had guys like what's the kid Garrett from Lake Travis who said that coming out of us. Like, great players.
Garrett Wilson, yeah.
Garrett Wilson, right? So great players go there and they disappear. You don't want to go there, right? Just state it out there. That was common knowledge. And that's how teams they negatively recruited against Texas. You don't want to go there, man. They don't develop talent. They don't compete for championships. So it was an easy pitch to recruit against Texas. Why the hell would you want to go there? And they cycle through coaches all the time, man. Constant revolving door of coaches there, assistant coaches, head coaches. Man, they don't really have any continuity there. Now it's the complete opposite of all those things. They're developing guys into being NFL players. They're competing for championships. The NIL, that goes without saying. The academics kind of goes without saying. That's always been the case. Austin is a great city. I don't know the pitch now. Jeff, what's the negative when you're going into the same living room and Texas is the other school? How do you negatively recruit against Texas now? What is it? They got too many good players?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's a first world problem because Nick Saban dealt with it for forever and Kirby Smart's dealing with it. It's why you can go to Texas. You're gonna have to sit behind such and such NFL guy for 3 years. You're gonna see the field till you're a junior. That's all you got. That's all you got. When you're getting into those kind of first world problems, that's how you know you're getting somewhere as a program. And I remember at a SEC Media Day, I talked to Malachi Starks and Michael Williams about it, and they said the same thing about Georgia. They said that was really the only negative thing anybody could tell us about Georgia is, well, why are you going to go there? You can come here and play early. You're not going to play there for 2 or 3 years. Well, Kirby Smart flipped that and said, yeah, but you're going to be going against NFL and talent in practice every day. Mm-hmm. So by the time you do get ready to play, you're going to be more prepared than you ever would be. And if you're better than that NFL guy, we'll play you. I don't care who you are. We're going to play the best player. So yeah, Sark is dealing from with a first world problem. What do you talk about? It's crying from a yacht. That's definitely where you are right now. With if that's all teams have to use against you, then you're getting somewhere.
Yeah, and another thing, Jeff, Texas continues to distance themselves from our rivals recruiting wise. Mm-hmm. When you look at the number of 4- and 5-star players we're getting, and Oklahoma and A&M are getting, that gap is widening, and it's just setting up perfectly, for us to continue to make this run, even though everybody's still very hungry for that championship. But we're knocking on the door, and it's not like the train is slowing down. We're continuing to distance ourselves from our hated rivals, and that's got to be tough for them to accept.
That's a good point, Coach. And you've been there. You can speak to this, Rod. You played there. Like it's really easy for people to get to Texas and have complacency set in and be like, hey, you know what? I made it. It's great here. But man, if we've been around Sark enough now, he's the furthest thing from complacent. I mean, it is, you go to a Sark practice, it is, what to the wall every single day. And it is, they're hungry to go win a championship. I mean, you think about it, like Chris Jackson came from the NFL to coach at Texas. Rashard Choice has had opportunities to go to the NFL, but he stayed at Texas. Jeff Banks, Kyle Flood, you got really good assistant coaches that could be in the NFL. They're staying at Texas. Pete Kwiatkowski he said, hey, I'm here to do my role. I have no interest in being a head coach. He likes being at Texas. And it's not that, Austin's a great place to live and all the advantages we talk about with Texas. That's why it's easy to get complacent. But if the man at the top is setting the tone that no, we are focused. We have not accomplished what we want to until we get to the top of the mountain. Yep. That sets the tone every day. And that's what the tone is. When everybody walks into Moncrief, hey, Today, you need to get better and help us get another step closer to a national championship. That's what the focus is every day.
Yep. No, that's I love that, right? That sense of urgency every damn day you walk in the building.
4th and 1 mentality.
Yep. Coach, you know who's gonna be upset with you though? Arkansas Razorback fans. You brought up the rivals. You didn't mention one Razorback. You didn't say nothing about Arkansas.
Oh, are they our rivals?
Wow, man. See, old school time.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I know. I'll just give you some
but they haven't had any momentum in recruiting in a long time that I can remember.
No, and matter of fact, we'll get into transfer portal departures because they had a lot of them leave Arkansas. Woo. They had a bunch of them. It was an exodus there. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit later on there. But let's get back to another question here. This from Johnny. Johnny, good question. Johnny Epps. Rod, who's your starting secondary next year? That is a good question. Right now, I assume, all right, you got Malik Muhammad at one corner.
Mm-hmm.
You know you got Mike Kutaf at safety. I'm assuming Derek Williams going to be the other safety, but like I said, that could be off there. I know Jelani McDonald, they like what he's doing too, and they've been moving him into that big nickel. So he's definitely Jelani McDonald's definitely going to be in the rotation. Right now, I see Derek Williams as that guy, but I could be off there. Jalen Gilbo is your nickel, and I think Kobe Black's going to get. I believe he's going to get the benefit of the doubt to start the spring at that other corner, but the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is it honestly they got some young DBs coming in. Cade Phillips, I'm telling you, man, I've worked with a young buck before in the camp before, and he's got some skill. I could see them if Kobe Black's not actually, meeting expectations. I could see them coming up with another plan there. I think they were surprised by Gavin Holmes leaving. Because I think if Gavin Holmes didn't leave, he could have been that insurance policy. It was like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what happens with Kobe Black. We're good. We got another guy to cover, and we can bring Kobe along at his own pace. Now I think there may be a movement to expedite his development. So I think that's right now the secondary. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
Well, Holmes was out of eligibility. So
was he really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so he was gone. But I think it's going to be a nice little competition. There's a couple guys that I've got my eye on this spring. Derek Williams, we know he's not going to be available for spring ball. So I think it's a chance for, if Jelani McDonald's going to go win that job, he's got 14 practices in a spring game to go win it. Like, this is his opportunity to go in. They say you never lose a job because of injury. Well, there's a chance Derek Williams could lose a job to injury because Jelani McDonald could just take that job this spring. I want to see the question, Rod, I keep getting asked is Jalen Gilbo going to move to corner? And I think before you answer that, it's no different than what we were talking about this time last year with Jade. Do you have somebody who can play that nickel position? Because maybe it's Jelani McDonald. Hey, is it a guy like Wardell Mack? Could Wardell Mack get some run in the nickel? Or is it Jordan Johnson-Rebel? And then at that corner, Warren Roberson's a guy that put in his time on special teams last year, so he's going to get a chance. And Rod, I do wonder, with as much field, the shift away from being a field and boundary secondary, I wonder if what that does to Kobe Black, because he was recruited that, hey, we want you to function the way Ryan Watts did. Well, if you're not running a true field and boundary defense, would Ryan Watts be better off at safety or wherever? I don't know, but that's one thing that's good. Spring ball is going to decide. So I want to see that corner battle. And you talk about Cade Phillips. You're talking about a 6-foot corner. It's about 185 pounds, runs sub 49, sub 50 in the 400. I think he's a sub 22, 200 guy, almost a 25-foot long jumper, 6'8" wingspan. I mean, I'll borrow the Sark line. You go in a lab and make you a corner for football today, you'd have Cade Phillips walk out of that experiment. So yeah, and the fact that he's on campus this spring, I just don't know. Rod, you and Coach can definitely speak to this more than I can. The transition from high school football to college football, I tend to think corners one of those positions where it might translate faster than it would at some other spots.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think there's any doubt it'll transfer. You're gonna get some guys that have basic footwork down, basic body positioning, eyes where you want your eyes, and then of course man coverage. We used to work our man coverage a lot in the summertime during 7-on-7. And that's what most people just ran 2-man. They just ran two deep safeties and man underneath and just polish your man skills. But I definitely think it's going to be a lot easier, and they come in better prepared as a freshman to play corner than safety for sure. There's just so many things with safety, and you add the run support element to it, and it takes somebody that has quick reactions, but it also takes somebody that has good instinct. Wouldn't you say, Rod?
Yep.
On that safety spot.
Yep.
Great instinct. Field aware.
Yep, I'm with you. And then and the just kind of overall football IQ. I'm not saying you don't need it at corner, but I agree with you guys. I think a lot of the physical attributes and traits translate, especially if you are playing man and less zone. If you're playing a lot of matchup zone, a lot of match quarters, and Texas does plays as much zone as anybody in the country. Match quarters, match 3, which are basically matchup zones that deteriorate into man. Then you need your corners to process and diagnose routes combinations a little bit better. But if you're just playing man, just go cover that cat. You can do that as a freshman if you got the skill to do it. And I think Cade Phillips got that kind of ability. Some people here in the chat asking, what about Santana Wilson? Santana Wilson is one of those guys that I think I've called him a technician, guy that, he's kind of grown up studying the DB position and studying how to play man. I'm having a conversation with him about the different types of way that he plays press man, and the different techniques of playing press man. So I like what Santana Wilson brings to the table. Not sure about where he is this spring and things. That would be a good question. I think that's another, because I think they want to go more towards man coverage. I know they do. Yeah. Sark has said it, but Sark also has taken the advice of Nick Saban. You can only play man if you got the dogs to do it. And only a few teams around the country really got the dogs to play a lot of man. Georgia, Ohio State, LSU. That's why you think these schools call themselves DBU. They're the only ones that can recruit enough DBs to play just straight up man when they want to play man. The kind of athletes you need to do it. Texas in that position now, Jeff. They should be able to recruit the kind of athletes who can just straight up play man. Those kind of elite athletes on the outside to win one-on-ones. So I do think at one point we're going to transition here. It wasn't this year. You had the best secondary in the country, and you didn't play a lot of man. You were bottom 15 in the country in man coverage rate. You were bottom 15 in the country in press coverage rate. You did not play a lot of press. You did not play a lot of man. They didn't have to, though. I think that's where they want to get to. They ultimately want to get to where the point where they can play a lot more man coverage. Cade Phillips is that type of athlete. Santana Wilson's that kind of player. And I think that's more what you'll start getting on the outside. But that's different than the guys they had this year. But give PK credit. He made the most of what he had. And I think ultimately he was able to build a defensive identity just around the strengths of his players. I think it'll be different strengths as they start to, bring in these other recruiting classes, and they start to implement some of these higher level traits that they've been recruiting now at DB position, which is man coverage skills. Yeah.
It makes me, it just reinforces, Rod, that Coach Aquino was ahead of his time,
Yes, it was.
He's talking about when he got there in 2001, say, I don't need a pure safety or whatever. I need 4 guys that can cover, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was at that time in the Big 12, Mike Leach had come in, Mangino was running some of that spread stuff. It was starting to infiltrate the conference, and Coach Aquino got ahead of it, saying, I'm going to take Ahmad Brooks instead of having him be my number 2 corner. I want to put him at safety. I want to get Nathan Vasher on the field. I can get him on the field at safety. So, I got 4 guys in my starting secondary that can cover. And that was kind of the reinvention of DBU. Rod, you were at the forefront of that. And, all of a sudden, hey, now Texas is back to producing first-round draft picks and Thorpe Award winners and all this other stuff. But I think it was because Coach Aquino was ahead of the curve, and now you're getting back to that. Like I said the other day, how much Sark takes from Nick Saban, and Nick Saban took from Bill Belichick, and he credits Bill Belichick with laying a lot of his football foundation. And Belichick gave this to Saban, and I'm sure Sark's taking it from Saban. There are 3 things you got to do if you play DB for Belichick, Saban, and I think for Sark. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to play the ball in the deepest part of the field, and you got to be able to play man-to-man. You got to be able to do those 3 things, and if you can't play DB.
Yep, 5 tool DBs. And honestly, that's what the secondary was missing last year. You didn't have a lot of coverage specialists in the secondary. You upgraded with a lot of guys who actually could cover And even though Texas played out of zone, they played out of match zone, so it was aggressive zone coverage. So that's why you didn't see a lot of guys running wide open. But you're right, Jeff. That they're kind of getting back to. I remember I was talking to Michael Griffin about this earlier this week. We were recording Third and Longhorn, and shout out, we're gonna have Mike Griff on. Did a Sam Ellinger one too. Talked to Bam Bam Sam last week too, and talking to Mike Griffin. He was talking about Coach Aquino, and Coach Aquino would literally come up with his nickel group and his dime group, which is 5 DBs, 6 DBs. And he would just literally rank his DBs in his room. And that's the 5 DBs he'd put out. He wouldn't go, no, I need a nickel. Like, no. Yeah. These are my 5 best DBs. I'm putting my 5 best DBs. Like, one of y'all got to play nickel. The 5th best, you're going to play nickel. You move to nickel. And then we come back. Well, 6. Who's going to be my dime? The 6th best DB in my room going to be my dime. Yeah. I'm not picking out a guy just to play dime and a guy just to play nickel. No. All y'all need to be 5'2" DBs. And if you can't, you won't last in my room very long anyway, so it won't matter.
Look, there have been you go back in some of those Johnny Johnson, Jerry Gray secondaries were great, but in my lifetime covering the program, the best secondary is that 2005 national championship secondary.
Oh, yeah, it ain't even close.
Because you had Cedric Griffin, Michael Griffin, Michael Huff, and Terrell Brown. If you were in the base defense, if you were 40 personnel, Aaron Ross didn't start. Guy was a first-round pick, won the Thorpe Award the following year. Didn't start. He was the nickelback. So, like, that's how deep and talented you were at that time.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. We were. Think about that. So what's that? 3 first-rounders? They came out nickel. 3 first-rounders. What was Griff? A second-rounder?
Second rounder. Yeah. So you had 4 top 50 draft picks in that secondary.
That was 2 Thorpe Award winners. Yeah, that's no doubt. That's the greatest secondary. It might be the greatest secondary in history of college football, let alone just at Texas. I mean, you might be talking about. I had to go look at some of them other Miami ones. I know they were deep, and Ohio State and has LSU. I'm sure had some really nice ones. So I'm not disrespecting, but it's in that conversation. It is. Talking about the DBs, Alan says Jelani is one of those dudes you find a way to get him on the field no matter what. I do think he'll play more in the secondary, and just been big about putting him in different roles. Maybe he's that inverted defender you move down with your inverted look, with your 3 safety look. He could be one of those guys. Christopher wants to know, Rod, is Phils to me a pure safety or a movable piece? I remember when I watched this film initially coming out of school, I did think he could play nickel if you needed him to. But I do think, Christopher, that cross-training everybody. That's the beauty of the secondary. I believe everybody's got another position they're cross-training yet. And not everybody, but almost everybody in the secondary has got another position they're cross-training at. Gilbo can play corner in addition to nickel. So getting back to what Jeff said, it is a throwback philosophy to what Coach Aquino was doing. Just I have guys I can move around. So I think Phil Smith can play safety and probably can play nickel if he needed him to, or maybe he can be that third safety. They got a 3 safety package now, guys. They run 3. They basically run 3 high. They ran it a few times against Ohio State. So they got a 3 safety package. So, you can always have one of those guys just be your third safety. It has been Gilbo, and whoever the nickel is ends up kind of roaming back there to play that third safety too. All right, let's get back to a couple of questions. I know we got one more here. Frank says, Jerry had a point this morning. Would Byron Murphy been a take for Texas if he was coming out of high school now? That's a good question. Coach, short arms, coach, a little stockier build. He's not these big, massive, disruptors that they're recruiting right now.
Yeah, but he had a motor, man. He had a motor. But I don't know. I don't know if he checks all the boxes that they're looking for now. And it's, it's obvious that people miss on recruits hundreds of times every year, because you look at guys that, for example, that we didn't even recruit, weren't even on our radar, that, other schools come in here and get, and they wind up going to the league, and we didn't even offer them. So it's certainly not an exact science. But anyway, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't have got recruited by this group.
Impressive, but I don't know.
I think Jeff, I think he might be right. I think there are certain body types, there are certain physical traits they're looking for. I always said I wouldn't have got recruited by the last 2 or 3 regimes at Texas. They don't want corners as short as me. I had Longhorns, but I was a little shorter than the corners that Charlie Strong started recruiting, and that the Tom Herman guys that came in, and now even Cade Phillips. Dude, I'm not in the same realm. It was like an avatar. So I was a man cover specialist, but I probably would have ended up at some other spot, man. I'd ended up at Clemson or something. Now I'm just joking. I didn't end up at that, but you get my point though. I don't know if I'd have been in Texas. I don't know if I'd have got the offer that I got back then.
Yeah, I'll say this about Byron. You know, he played. He shared the same defensive line at DeSoto with Shamar Turner, who was a 5-star kid. You know, at A&M, he's going to be a high draft pick. But I'll give my guy Mike Roach credit because Mike was on the buy. I mean, the reason why we had him a 4-star at 24/7 was because Mike kind of stood on the table for him. Said every time he watched DeSoto, you go to watch Shamar Turner. And every time you come away thinking, I know he's the 5-star guy, but Byron Murphy's a better player. Like consistently, he's disruptive. He's making an impact. He's always around the football. We feel Byron Murphy's presence the entire game. And Coach, I tip my hat again to Coach Herman's staff. That was an eval where between Byron Murphy and Jonathan Brooks, that 2021 class, you just took some kids that you just looked at and said, you know what? Don't really care what the measurables say. This kid's just a dominant football player. He's a good football player, high motor, high character kid. He can play for us. And those are the kind of guys you win games with, you win championships with.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because he was he was a running back coming up? Was that him? Byron Murphy? Did he play always D-line, or was he a running back early on in his high school?
I think you're thinking about Puna Ford, because Puna Ford played some running back in high school.
Okay. I thought Byron Murphy early on might have played a little running back or something like that in high school, but no, it's all about.
That's another guy though, Rod. How many people, how many schools in SEC and ACC territory watch Puna Ford and say, man, I kind of wish we could have took another look? Because you look at Puna and he's 5'10" and change. Like there's nothing physically that impresses you about Puna Ford, and then you realize, oh well, kind of the arm length and his style of play kind of makes up for the lack of height. And again, high motor guy, high football character guy. Sometimes you just got to roll the dice and say, I trust my gut that this guy can play. And there's quite a few times college staffs do that, and you end up being right.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Paul says, why you got to do Rod dirty like that? Say the best secondary was right after he left. You savage, Jeff. No, he's right. That secondary was. I mean, like I said, there's no way there's been a better secondary at Texas. And I honestly, I'd argue you may not have had a better secondary in all of college football, actually. So, hey, we had a really good secondary. By the way, statistically, I'm just gonna say it. Statistically, our secondary was better. Let's go throw it out there. Statistically, I ain't saying personnel wise, they're better. Go look at the best secondaries and the best pass defenses in Texas football history. Ours is actually, I think, ranked ahead of the 05 group.
2001 was number 1 in the country in total defense.
Throw it out there. Just throw it out there. It's secondary statistics. Go look at them. 01 was actually stingier secondary.
But you know what? I've had Cedric Griffin and Michael Huff say on more than one occasion that, you know, guys like Rod B and Nasty Nate Vasher, part of the reason why they became good players is they realized, okay, when you get to campus, these are the guys I want to try to take this guy's job. So you start working toward that. So Rod helped set the foundation for the reinvention of DBU.
Hey man, I appreciate that. Yeah, no doubt. I would think I give props to Coach Aquina, but Coach Aquina came in. Hey man, I wasn't going to lose my spot, but I knew they would be better than me. Trust me, I knew that. You don't think I knew when I saw Michael Huff and Cedric Griffin, they'd be better players than me? I ain't blind. All right. But they weren't taking my job, though. They ain't taking my job. No.
A scout's honor. I'm telling a true story. Dwayne Aquina and I were at a Houston Heights practice a couple years ago. We were both there watching Jalen Green, and we started talking about Texas secondary guys, and Coach Aquina's telling me about evaluating Earl Thomas, and subject of Rod B comes up, and Coach Aquina, I'm not lying, tells me, he said, you know what? If I got a third down, I'm not going to do the Coach Aquina voice. If I've got a third down and I've got to have one guy that I've coached to play man-to-man coverage, is like, I might just take Rod Babers.
Hey,
that's something right there.
That is something right there, man. That hits me in my feels right there. Listen, I love me some Coach Aquina. Coach Aquina does still to this day say that I am on the teach tape. He's got a tape coach where he teaches all the DBs and he shows perfect reps. And he said, I'm still on the teach tape for some perfect reps out there. So keep Coach Aquina alive. I love that. And thank you for that, Jeff. That actually made my damn day.
You feel good knowing Takario Davis was out at Arizona watching the little Rod B tape
That's what exactly. That's exactly. It brings me some pride, man. It brings me some pride. All right, let's speaking of bringing me some pride, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge because South Point Dodge is a point of pride because they're a sponsor not only of the winning drive, but they're a member of the Owen Texas football family. Really grateful to them for being with us for so long. We appreciate South Point Dodge, and so will you. You can get to the point and actually score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. You can score big today at South Point Dodge. They have an amazing deal happening right now. Over 50 of their Ram 2500s are all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge right now. You can see their selection of inventory in person off I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online, make it easy on yourself, and go online at southpointdodge.com, and you can check it out there as well. That's South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything, whatever your truck needs. South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. So thank you very much to southpointdodge.com for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, before we get out of here, because I know we're close to it, thank you guys for all the questions and your participation. Matt, do you mind bringing up the mock draft from Bucky Brooks? I threw this out there earlier. We said we'd talk about it earlier, so I just want to get to it. Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com does a great job of covering the draft for NFL Network. He came out with his latest mock draft. Remember, Daniel Jeremiah recently had a mock draft, but his latest mock draft, the first Longhorn on his mock draft actually is Kelvin Banks. He's got Kelvin Banks at 18 overall to the Seattle Seahawks, which is not bad. I like what Seattle's building, though, actually. They like the Longhorns, his new coach. Right, Byron Murray was his first draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. We just talked about it. Went at the first draft pick for the new coach there in Seattle. So Seattle Seahawks go back-to-back first-round Longhorns in back-to-back years if they end up getting Kelvin Banks. The second Longhorn he has is Matthew Golden. Now, that's rare because usually the Janae Barron has been the second Longhorn, even the first Longhorn, a lot of these mock drafts, guys. But he's got Matthew Golden going 22nd to the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh. That honestly, I can see that being a hardball pick. I can see that happening. He's got him going Jim Harbaugh. He's got right after that, as you can see, to the Green Bay Packers at 23, Janae Barron.
What'd I tell you?
You like that? You like that Green Bay Packer? Yeah.
He feels like a, I think about, guys like, Ted Thompson and Ron Wolf that have been in that chair in Green Bay, like, just give me the best ball player on the board at pick 23. You know what? It's Barron. Okay, that's our guy. You may not need a corner. You just want to take the best play. That's typically what you find out. That's typically the teams that year in, year out do well. They're not looking for, hey, we need a corner. We got to draft a corner right here. No, you just best available player. Trust your board.
The Ravens do that.
Yeah.
Just like Taylor, like, now I'm taking the best player. The Eagles do that sometimes. Like, now I'm taking the best player, and works out for them. So I will say the only mock draft that we have went over, because remember we talked about the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft recently, and he had Kelvin Banks at 13 going to the Dolphins. He had Janae Barron at 14 going to the Colts, and I think he had also Matthew Golden. Yes, 21 going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would say now covering all of it, and I've looked at Pro Football Focus latest mock draft. I think they had 3 Longhorns going in the first round as well. The only respected mock draft that I think has gotten a lot of attention, Matt Miller, I believe, also in his top 50, he's got 3 Longhorns in the first round. Mel Kiper's the only one that had 1 Longhorn. He's the only one that had Kelvin Banks, and that's it. Everybody else, Matt Miller's, by the way, his top 50, Kelvin Banks had 8, Janae Barron 16, Matthew Golden 17. That's on his top 50 big board, not his mock draft. He also has Cam Williams at 44 and Quinn Ewers at 49. In his top 50 board, just throwing it out there. Yeah, I know, right? He's really high on Quinn Ewers. He's the only one that high on Quinn. But it seems like most folks, guys, have 3 Longhorns in the first round. So maybe you get 3 Longhorns. And the last time that happened was, 1980? That's
80. Yeah.
That's the year I was born. That's how long it's been since we've had 3 Longhorns in the first round. Long time, man. Long time. So make it your wish. And I can say I didn't expect it. Matthew Golden's getting a lot of love. He's the one I think that's most surprising here. Janae Barron, I get it. Janae Barron's film is amazing. He's a Thorpe Award winner, right? Best DB in the country. Kelvin Banks in the first round. He was a freshman. The Matthew Golden one, didn't see it coming. I got to tell you, there's more momentum behind that. His 40 times going to be huge, or his workout's going to be huge. He's got to run well to solidify that.
Plays with toughness. Play strength is good. And again, You guys have to come up with some kind of game every time I mention this, but you need a kickoff guy. With the kickoff rules changing, field position's important. Matthew Golden, maybe the best kickoff return guy in the draft.
Yeah. All right. I waited to the end to talk about this because I didn't want to talk about it. The Justin Tucker allegations. Have y'all seen these? These are crazy. Apparently, from the Baltimore Banner, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker is alleged. The allegations are alleged to have engaged in some inappropriate behavior at multiple spas and wellness centers in the Baltimore region, according to multiple massage therapists. And they include exposing himself and some other stuff too. He has emphatically denied these and says they are false and that he will prove his innocence. He put out a statement. Actually, his people put out a statement earlier. So he is saying they're false. Can I just say this? Because I'm not going to make light of this at all because it's a serious situation, serious allegations. But this is the second superstar in the NFL. This guy's a Hall of Famer to have these types of allegations against him, massage parlors and that kind of stuff. I've got a lot of massages in my time. Can we just start making it a mainstream thing? I'm never naked during my massages, and maybe everybody does this. Why is everybody naked during the massages? Because I'm not.
I've gotten one, and
I've had a lot of them in my life, and I'm never naked.
Nobody needs to see me naked, first off, but no, I kept my drawers on.
I keep my underwear on when I give. I probably have had 70, 80 massages in my life. Think about the NFL and college and everything else. I've never taken my underwear off. Why? Can we just start there and leave your underwear on during massages? Like what? Maybe this is and I would say if y'all do that, that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's if there's a misunderstanding, that's probably because we could clear it up right there. Yeah. Just keep your drawers on and no butt naked massages. Like what? Who gets that comfortable when you get the massage, dude? It's like what? So I don't know what happened. I am not making light. I'm just saying, given my experience, I have a lot of massages because I used to be a professional athlete. Never was naked during a massage. Never. Man, woman, no matter who's giving this to me. Never naked. Like come on, guys. Like that's the only reason you could have some type of misunderstanding. So I'm just throwing it out there.
I never understood with the spas. I never understood those hot stones they put on your back. I never got that one. That always looks like there's got to be some kind of gimmick, right? Just putting flaming hot stones on your back to.
Oh, I've done that one. I've done that one. Yeah. So
it's really tough when they go down your drawers. Oh.
If they encourage you to take your drawers off, it's not a legitimate massage. I have gotten massages at the Four Seasons. I've got massages at facilities of NFL at NFL facilities. I've gotten them at Four Seasons. I've gotten them in New York City at some of the finest hotels, and I've gotten them at really kind of a little shady place, little day spas and this little the Happy Day massage parlor. I don't say I haven't done it, but I've never done anything shady, and I always leave my drawers on. Like underwear's on, never comes off. There's never any like misunderstanding. The underwear was on, even if I fell asleep, underwear's on. Like that's what I don't understand. What is happening? Can we just start there? Let's make this a mainstream thing, guys. Quick take it. Could have butt naked massages. And I don't think we can clear up some of these issues. Maybe, hopefully.
You ever been a big spa guy, Coach?
No, absolutely not. Do I look like a spa guy?
I didn't think so.
Hey, my spas were these stainless steel tubs you get in that had a real propeller down there with a little wire net around it, and you're just hoping that thing don't cut up your feet. That was my spa. Yeah, old guys remember those things, man. Like you got a motorboat in there,
I was gonna say, Coach, was the whirlpool at ACU? Is it kind of like in the Major League where they got to get the boat propeller out and crank the boat propeller?
Absolutely. We had a hot one. We had one hot one and one cold one, and that's it.
That's it.
Clean that water. Good Lord.
Oh man! All right, that's. I just want to get that out there. Get that off my chest. I don't know. I listen. I hope it's not. I hope it's not as bad as it seems. That's it. Because that's unfortunate. All right, let's get to. I don't know.
Thank you, Roy.
I did not going that with the end of the show. That's why I saved it, Coach, for the end of the show, so we can only get ourselves in so much trouble. We only talked about it for like 3 or 4 minutes. All right, there you go. Thank you to Coach. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Give Matthew a round of applause. Matthew's real MVP.
Thank you, Matthew.
Man, without him. Thank you to our friends over at Flat Creek State Winery. Thank you to our friends over at South Point Dodge as well. Tomorrow, you'll have coffee and football in the morning starting at 8 a.m. And we'll have our live stream tomorrow. I believe it's going to be at 1, but stay tuned. We could shift that around, but I believe it's going to be a 1 o'clock live stream on Friday. And also, we'll come back this weekend. Any nuggets, any news that drops, of course, keep it tuned here right at On Texas Football YouTube channel or on TexasFootball.com. All right, for Coach and for Jeff and for Matthew behind the scenes, until next time, hook 'em horns.